All right, guys, our next video here in this great journey is going to be Tailscale Sidecar, or what I assume is side containers. Okay, getting those set up. Now, how do you set up a Tailscale side container? So first thing you do is you go into your Unraid Docker, right? You're going to hit add container. You're going to go to your template here. Is actually already set up as a template for you. And you should see this right here, Tailscale Sidecar Unraid. And you're going to click on this, okay? And then it's going to actually have, all the information you need in order to get this up and going properly, okay? So first things we're going to do, okay, I'm going to help walk you through it. Let me hit advance real quick, okay? So first thing you really need to do is you need to make sure that you rename this, okay? Because if you leave this like this, it's going to it might not actually mess with the template, but you do want to just give this a different name, right? Because this is a container, so this is going to be a Docker container, so give it a name, okay? And then we're going to go down to here. I'm gonna tell you now, I did not like this setting. I actually had an issue, and I'll explain later about it, but I would actually recommend removing that, right? I don't want it restarting on its own, because then I'll actually, as far as what I saw from logs and alerting, it didn't actually even look like it was restarting. So it's some weird internal stuff that it was just doing like weird things, okay? But all right, so cool. So I removed that, okay? You're going to leave this as bridge. Okay, leave this as bridge, and then this is where you're going to give it a name. So this is the name that's going to show up in Tailscale under your list of machines. So you're going to go ahead, you give it a name. I'm gonna call it demo for a second here, okay? And then this is where you would set up all of the different things that you need to have. Now, you can use a Tailscale. You can use a Tailscale. I guess the side container. Possibly as an node and all this other stuff, maybe, but I think you probably would want to use like a regular Tailscale container for that, not the sidecar Unraid one. Like I said, I haven't done none of that stuff, so I mean it's up to you to if you want to mess with that, right? What the side container is meant to do is meant to be a bridge between another container on Docker, okay, or another container on Unraid, right, that you have, and the rest of your Tailscale network, right? So if you notice, right, the when you add a container in the Unraid, right, it has the use the Tailscale button, okay, and then you're able to do the stuff. Some containers it won't work, right? Some containers will fail letting it install, because my understanding is that it injects something into like the, I don't know, like the script or something to try and get like Tailscale to install first and then have it do its thing. But depending on the design of the container itself, that probably doesn't work, or it doesn't work, and then it'll screw with your stuff, okay? So that's why they made this implementation here of having a side container, okay, or a sidecar. So we're going to, you give it a name. I'm not messing with any of this here because I don't need any of this for that. And we're going to hit enable advanced, okay? We're going to enable the advanced settings, okay? Now, the reason why I'm showing you this, okay, is as of right now, what is this beautiful year of 2026, okay? I have an issue as of right now with Unraid 7.2.3 with the latest Tailscale at this moment in time, where the container constantly like restarts internally. Okay, my logs doesn't show me anything. The actual Tailscale container log does show you like this weird authentication thing, but it's like really subtle and you won't really catch it, because as far as like your machines go, it's just gonna come up and it's going to just show that it's just connected and it never like disconnected, or whatever it is, that's the thing. And it took me like god awfully long to figure out why it was doing that. Right? It just restarts and it doesn't make it quite clear why, right? So what you're going to need to do, okay, is you are first and foremost, you need to have a persistent state. So the first error that we got when we try to leave everything default and hit apply is that when I go into the logs, and the very first thing you're going to have a problem with says that it couldn't detect persistent Docker directory for tailscale.state. Okay, now how do you fix that? Okay, it gives you an example, or it gives you like a little bit of information where it says you just go advance and set the tailscale directory. It's like, okay, cool, right? But as you see, it's running, right? But you need to fix that. That's part one of the fix, of like the important long-term fix, because when you turn this off and back on, it won't remember that it's authenticated, and then it's going to be a problem. Okay, so let me just go back to this here. Okay, so what we're going to do, all right, we're going to go here in advanced settings. So first and foremost, what we need to do is we need to make a state directory. Okay, this clearly, oh, sorry, this is a variable, right? You leave this be, right? You don't want, you're not gonna mess with that, right? State storage, okay? So here you are, right? I'm going to change this. Now it says you can use one directory for multiple containers. A subfolder is created for each Tailscale machine name. This was false, okay? Or at least when I made my first container, it did not actually change. It didn't make a subdirectory. It just dumped everything right here into this directory. As a matter of fact, do I still have this up? I do. Cool. Let me go here, Docker app data. I'm sorry, it's in user, right? So if I go user app data tailscale, okay, as you see, it didn't even make anything. But if I sit there and grab the container path real quick, because I really want to show you guys so you don't think I'm crazy. I did not mean to install that. Maybe that is cool or important. Right here, right? The state directory, okay? You're going to put this at the directory of the container. It needs to be the directory of the container, right? Because this is where it's going to be making the stuff at. So there you go, right? So it's Tailscale this. Let me grab that real quick, okay? It's going to be Tailscale / that, okay? Boom. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hit apply just so you guys can kind of see. Okay, because I said it says it, and this will be good, right? Because like if maybe they fix this down the road, you already have it, but cool, it's done. Now if I come back over here and if I refresh, okay, it didn't do anything. We'll go here and look into the container, and there you go, right? Starting Tailscale with log blah blah blah, setting it to this, cool, and it's starting, right? And then here goes the authenticating thingamabob here, okay? So you click this, you click that link, you do the clicks, right? And it's gonna bring you to a thing where you can authenticate it with Tailscale, okay? You click on device details, and then you see that the host name is going to be called demo, right? I hit connect, device demo has just been added. Now if I come over here, I see demo is there and it's connected, okay? But now when I come over here to this, okay, it's authenticated, right? It did all of its nice fancy stuff, okay? But let me see if I can actually like point it out right here. Boom. Warning, error, Tailscale stop, right? So for whatever reason, it'll activate, it'll get connected, and then it'll crash, and then it'll come back up, right? And you see, and look, right? And that's what it's just going to keep doing, and then it eventually gets to this stuff. But what that does is, okay, look, see, it's asking again to be authenticated, right? You see that it says connected and it doesn't ever look like it's ever disconnected, okay? That's the problem. Now, what do you do to fix it? Okay, so this is what you have to do. You have to actually make a different authentication method, right? You're going to go here to settings. You're going to go here to personal settings. You can go to keys, okay? And you're going to click on generate auth key, okay? So I'm going to click generate auth key, And then, you'll give it a description, right? This could be from anywhere between 1 to 90 days. And you don't want to check the inferior or the tag. I mean, unless you know what you're doing with either of those things. But you do want to make this reusable. Okay. So that way you could just use the same key as you're activating your other containers. Or, like I said, it's totally up to you, right? Or you could just not do that, right? And, you just make a key for every single like side container thing you want to generate, right? Then you hit generate, and then it'll give you your key. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump back to the thing here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove this. I don't need to remove the image, but I'm going to just remove this. So as you can see, let's see, gave it the name I want to give it. Has the host name, right? CrushFTP, because like I said, because I'm gonna be using this for the CrushFTP, right? To get access to it to my Tailscale network. Everything else is defaulted. Tailscale State Directory, like I said, is going to be inside the container, which, like I said, is going to be this directory here, because this is what I would have did. I would have, made a directory specifically for the purpose of this container, right? Which is going to be for my Crush FTP Docker container, right? And then boom, right? The Tailscale state thingamabob, okay? And then here you go, right? Then you can see, because you see I had updated the pathway. Okay, now here is the important thing, right? Because this won't be here, right? You need to go ahead, hit add, create a variable, okay, and then you need to give it this right here. Okay, key needs to be ts auth key, and then the key is going to be the long, the thing that would have been generated from Tailscale, right? That's where you're going to put this at. Okay. Okay, you don't have to name it the way I did, but that's what it is. Okay, so you're going to give it the key, and then you're going to hit save, and then you're going to hit apply. So let me I'm gonna go ahead and reset this, hit apply. So my actual key is done, and then I'm just going to go straight to the container so that we can get authenticated. All right, so it's now installed. Okay, now here is all right, like I said, beauty in its finest. Okay, now you're probably wondering, why is it asking yet again to authenticate? And the reason being is just because, like I said, this implementation, I don't know if you want to call this cutting edge or whatever, right? But if we sit there and we go here to machines, right? As you can see, it's not, it didn't authenticate on its own. So it is really actually stuck at that part. So yes, you do need to, even though we gave it an authentication key, right? According to Tailscale documentation, because like when you give it the variable and you put the key, or is it Tailscale? No, sorry, either Tailscale or Unraid. I don't remember which documentation I was reading, right? It didn't work. It says it's supposed to work, but it actually didn't work. So now let's go ahead and authenticate. All right, so we sat there and we added it, and you're going to actually get 2 container names now. Okay, you're going to get the name that you actually called it, which in my case here, you see it's this Crush, the vCrushFTP, and then you're going to get this right here, this whatever random thing it wants to call it. Okay, I don't know why it does this. I don't even know if Tailscale even internally is supposed to even allow this. I don't know. I feel like this is probably highly frowned on, that I'm getting a single Tailscale machine having 2 separate instances. This is almost as bad as like, getting a free, or sorry, well, yeah, I mean, technically free, right? Is getting your internet service provider to provide you like 2 public IP addresses. I'm pretty sure this is not supposed to actually happen, but this is where we're at right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to delete or remove the one that's just whatever name it is, because I want to keep my actual name. One thing to keep in mind, okay, is that if for whatever reason the container is, you remove the container and you add it back, you are going to have to go back through that, where you need to like add it. So you'll have to, click on that link, right? Add it. And then you'll have to remove that second